everybody. Welcome to the Black Men with Purpose podcast. For those of you joining us for the first time, it's a pleasure to have you with us. This is a safe space where we share our thoughts on a multitude of topics in hopes of helping Black males, young and not so young, overcome obstacles and challenges that can be hindrances to happiness, productivity, and success. We believe that through our experiences, successes, and failures, we can have some conversations that might help other Black males in their respective journey through this thing called life. Brothers, welcome back to another episode of the Black Men with Purpose podcast. This is episode number 3 of season 4. And I got a story to tell, y'all. So, I've said it many times before, but I live in Alexandria. I am right across from the National Harbor. And this past weekend, the CPAC was at the National Harbor at the Gaylord. And for y'all that don't know what that is, it's the Conservative Political Action Crew. I don't know what that last C stands for, but committee. There we go. CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee. And so a buddy of mine was in town and he was staying in the Gaylord. And so I went to meet him there. And when I got in there, it was MAGA everywhere. It was crazy. There was a dude with a MAGA hat on and an ice jacket on. And I went into the little spot where we were supposed to meet up and get out of there. And I mean, they were everywhere. I was crazy. And I noticed a Black couple in there and they just had this look. And I'm walking through there like just because the National Harbor is a Black space. Like it's always us and our cousins. But it was like they got the memo because they got out of Dodge. It wasn't none of us to be found nowhere in there. So I go up in there and I'm just walking around, I think we've all been pretty, open about our political views, and I'm definitely not a big supporter of the two-party system. I think that there should be more options, and I'm pretty politically progressive. I see government often as a barrier to our happiness, and I look for a government or a political movement that kind of aligns with the ability to, negotiate with easier, right? So, it just depends. But this was not political at all. This was pure cult. And, I saw that Black couple in there, man, and the brother looked at me and he said, "Hey man, what you in here for?" I said, I ain't in here for this. Don't play with me. And he was like, "Man, we just made a reservation. We was just gonna come out on a Friday. We did not expect this." I'm like, "They got you today because this was not the day, and we bonded on that." But it was just crazy. And the one thing that I realized is walking through, because it was a bunch of them. They were in packs. But I noticed like everywhere I walked, because, I was just kind of disgusted at the way they were carrying on, how hateful some of them were really being just in public because they had a lot of people with them. And so, that kind of put you in the mood. We all talk about where we come from, what we've been through. So I probably had a crazy look on my face. And I noticed that every time I would walk close to a group of them, man, they would just spread like the Red Sea. And I'm like, they all up in here thinking they tough. But the biggest thing I can tell is these are some insecure cowards in here. And that's why this means so much to them. I get it if you are a Republican, you're a conservative, and that's just how you grew up and those are your beliefs. This was not that at all. This was just a display of people who don't love themselves, don't know what's important to them. They're cowards. They are misinformed. It was like being in an episode of Get Out turned into a TV show. It was crazy. So, that's story time here. Our first segment that we normally open up with is Brothers, how y'all feeling? But let me open up with a special message from somebody that y'all all might be familiar with.
What's good, fam? Please excuse any dogs barking or any other background noise that you might hear as I'm walking around the neighborhood. But in any case, I've been blessed and fortunate to overcome and achieve a lot in life. But the one thing that I've been unable to conquer is learning to swim. So at the beginning of the month, I decided to do something about it. And I started swimming lessons. Now, I've been progressing pretty nicely, actually, but I haven't been giving myself credit for the progress that I've made. As I was leaving my lessons one day last week, my wife, who watches me during my lessons, she said, you're doing really, really well. You look great out there. To which, I said, hey, I appreciate that. However, I feel like I should be further along than where I am right now. In my mind, every time I learn something new, I should be Michael Phelps, right? I should be an Olympic swimmer by now. Obviously, that's not realistic. So, her response to my response was, maybe you're not noticing or crediting your progress because you keep raising a bar. Man, that blew my mind, and it really resonated with me. And of course, she was right. But not only that, that's something that I think I've done to myself a lot in life. And her point wasn't that I shouldn't raise the bar, right? That wasn't what it was about. It's that if you are constantly raising the bar every time you achieve something, what's next? What's the next thing? Then you are not recognizing the accomplishment or the achievement that was just made, right? And it may look as though you're not making any progress when you do that. So, again, the other part to the point was sometimes you have to kind of step back and reflect and kind of take in what you've done, right? Appreciate your achievements, not from the standpoint of beating your chest or trying to be braggadocious, but just to recognize the progress that you made, right? We are all wanting to achieve more in life and to progress in life, but we have to actually recognize and understand what we've done before we move on to the next thing. So hopefully that's helpful to you. It was certainly helpful to me. And as usual, my wife imparting knowledge on me. So I hope you all have a great day. And again, I hope that was useful to you. Peace.
Our brother, GQ, Kev Daly, partaking in some wisdom, giving it to us. And so, Brother Rob, why don't you start us out? How you feeling about anything that's happened, about what we just played, whatever you want to talk about? How you feeling, brother?
Man, I appreciate that, man. My first question is, did that brother say he was out on a walk? Like an exercise walk? I thought he was going to work. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shoot him a message like, man, can you dress down to go for a walk?
What, you thought he was getting on the bus?
I mean, he had on, had on his little sweater. I'm like, where's he going? Yeah, but no, man, I appreciated hearing your story about your venture to the National Harbor. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you espouse there. If the system that you're working in or working with doesn't work for everyone, or provide opportunity for everyone, then look to make improvements to it. That's if you value dissension of thought, or I should say dissenting thoughts, views, and opinions. You want to collect and gather all the information and then make a decision that, supports the masses. But yeah, doesn't seem like where we are, So I'm just a firm believer now, probably more so now than ever. We have to deal with what our reality is, as we work to try and, make the necessary adjustments to it, or to participate in whatever change that we want to see. But that's sad to see. But, we all grew up in different neighborhoods, but how people get when they got a group around them, supporting them, defending them. They're a little different, You just happen to catch them walking home from the schoolyard by themselves. You know, they crossing the street. You know,
Right.
so yeah, it's just you know, funny, not funny, haha. It's just, you know, really sad. But that's the state of affairs that we're in at this point. And you know, I just encourage everyone to recognize the reality of the situation that they might be in, and make the necessary adjustments so they can continue to be well, do well, and navigate the obstacles that have been set before us. That's just really the bottom line to it all. You know, as they say, you know, you don't think you're comfortable with this, just wait around. Things will change. You know, doesn't say it's going to get better. It's just going to change. It might get worse. But the one thing that we can rest assured is that when people like that get together, it doesn't take long before the infighting will start. You know, whenever, you know, selfish people don't get their way, you know, they'll go along for a little bit, but at some point in time, they're going to let it be known that I don't like that because it was not my idea. So, no, I'm not agreeing with that. You know, so the temperature in the country will continue to evolve. Um, we just have to figure out, you know, how to navigate this this new space they're creating. And I would just say, for me, the thing that troubles me the worst, the most, I should say, is that where are all your elected officials at? I don't care what party they're in. They're elected officials, you know. So everyone's, you know, kind of turned their back and sat on their hands and refused to use their voice because they want to protect their jobs. You know, they want to protect their privilege. And that's what everyone should be noticing, right? So when they come back, you know, to the district for their town hall meetings and all, like the one, I think it was a Republican congressman back.
You talking about in Iowa?
Yeah. You know, I hope that he wasn't surprised that people were kind of up in arms, you know, because anyone that sits down and look at the travesty of justices going on, it's just a matter of time before they become part of that group that it happens to, instead of cheering on the things that you've always wanted to be done. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. So I just wanted to start off with that, but it's good to see you, brothers. And it's good to be here today, man. You know, no matter the craziness going on around us, you know. And I would tell you the other thing is that, you know, from talking to different people within our community, I think that, you know, I've found a lot of people are really, really turning to their faith, you know. And sometimes you never know, you know, and when God wants to get our attention, sometimes it might take some drastic things to get it. You know, the only thing is that if it takes drastic things to get it, get the lesson from that and become more committed, you know, to your walk. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brother Ray.
All right, brother. Appreciate you. I just writing down a couple other things that just crossed my mind. But how am I feeling? Wow. Listening to John talk about his walk through the National Harbor. Honestly, bro, the first thing that popped into my head was I don't know if you, I'm sure you all have seen it, where the former was a Capitol Police officer, Michael Fanone. He was being escorted through this building, and the leader of the Proud Boys had been sent to jail but pardoned and released by Trump was following and harassing him. Now keep in mind this dude was by himself, and Fanon had a bunch of people, other officers and what have you, escorting him through the building, or security, whoever it was. And the Proud Boy, he's being loud and boisterous because he knew there was no way that Fanon was going to be able to get to him, because Fanon, not only were people recording this altercation, but Fanon never addressed him, and this dude just kept going and kept going, and finally he as Fanon was waiting on an elevator, Terry, or whatever his name is, for from the Proud Boys, actually said, "Yeah, that's you won't look me in the eyes." And as soon as he said that, Officer Fanon looked him dead in the eyes and called him a piece of trash and a few other expletives, and told him he was a disgrace, that he was a traitor to the country. And this dude, the Proud Boy, tries to flip the script, but you could see where he was so comfortable saying all of this nonsense because he knew that Fanon was not gonna approach him, and Fanon was being pushed along to keep him from basically tearing this dude a new one. Because my money was on Officer Fanon. You know, this dude, you're by yourself, but you feel comfortable with addressing him and talking down to him because you see he's got people that's going to stand in between the two of you. But if those people had a parted like the Red Sea, like you said, John, his whole demeanor, I believe, would have changed, and dude would have started backing up. But because he knew he had that barrier to keep Officer Fanon from getting to him, he just felt comfortable with spouting off that nonsense. So that was something that irritated me. But then, of course, the one that really hit home for me, even though I've been retired for 11 years, was the fact that when General C.Q. Brown got fired from being the chairman of the Joint Chiefs for no other reason other than he was black. And nobody could tell me differently, because they kept talking about the new the defense secretary was saying, well, he needed to go because he was all about diversity. Well, the last time we checked, the military was diverse. There's people of all races, creeds, colors, sexual orientations are in the military. It's not just white men. You know, that bothered me, that General Brown was fired for no other reason than the color of his skin. The Navy chief of staff was fired. A 4-star admiral woman was fired because she was a woman. And then we go back to the day of the inauguration, the day after the inauguration, and the first female 4-star Coast Guard commandant was fired for no other reason than she was a woman. Because there was no reasons given, no official reasons given. So those had to be the reasons. But then when you look at all the pictures of the Joint Chiefs, the only two that were not white male was General Brown and that Navy admiral. Everybody else was a white male 4-star. So it's like, okay, and they also didn't want to come to the engineers conference in Baltimore that my bonus daughter was at. You know, it was a Black engineers conference, and the military is always there recruiting, but now the military, because of the anti-DEI, was not allowed to go and recruit all these qualified engineers that the military needs, but they weren't allowed to go recruit these people because of the color of their skin. But I know we got a lot to cover. I'm quite sure we're going to cover quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic on over to Byron.
Fellas, good to see y'all. John, I just like how you walk through there like, hey, I ain't scared of y'all, you know? And, you know, and at the end of the day,
because I'm not.
We're not scared. And I think that's part of not only of who we are, but I think now with this climate, as Rob was speaking to, they got to understand we're not scared just because we don't say nothing, because maybe we're not acting like we're not scared. So we've been through this before. I look at this as a time where they have thinking they've got everything that they want, but they're still dysfunctional. I work in the federal government. They can't get on the same page for nothing. You got the White House, you got the Congress, you got the Senate, you got the House, and y'all still can't get on the same page. But as long as y'all in charge, you good, but you're not getting anything done. So that's what that's the thing, not so much them, but what bothers me the most is that people that really need these services that we provide as a nation are not going to get the services they need because we got a bunch of people that are dysfunctional right now. So yeah, we're not scared. I'm concerned about the people who don't have the ability to fight for themselves. Those are the people that I'm concerned for. The people, even veterans, I have a cousin who works that veteran hotline, the crisis line for the VA. And the stories that she shares about, veterans are, they're concerned about everything. And not all of them are on the verge of suicide, but it's like, hey, my spouse is ill and I don't have all the resources to help my spouse. Or I'm about to lose my car because I don't have enough money to pay the car note. And so you have people that, and basically this administration has just exacerbated everybody's ability to work and their ability just to be successful, to take care of their kids. That's at the end of the day, that's all people want to do. Let me have the opportunity to work so I can provide for my children, so I can have a decent wage to live. I'm not asking for Elon Musk money. I'm just asking for the opportunity to live well. And that's what's not happening right now. So I know we're going to talk more about it, but yeah, I think that's what's bothering me more so, that there's people out here that really need help, but we got this clown show that's going on. And, at the end of the day, you're really just hurting people that really need the help.
Yeah, totally agree. So many points, man. Thank you, brothers. How we all feeling? I think, when we talk about that, that's one of my biggest concerns, is that whether I agree politically or even, people with views I abhor, on race and on gender and things like that, there's no part of me that wants them to not be able to feed their families and to be able to survive and do things like that. I think all of us as leaders, not only in the military, but leaders in our own personal lives and leaders in other, forums, have always felt like that. We've led teams that had people that, had ideologies or ways that we didn't agree with, but there was nothing ever in us that decided, hey, I want to do something to keep this person from being able to feed their family and pay their bills. And that's one of the heartbreaking and disheartening things about it, is that it's just built so much on penalizing other people or getting revenge and things like that. And there's too much collateral damage with that. And that is not a sign of good leadership at all. If anybody wondered, it's not historically, it's not under any metric. So, those are the concerns. And, I really appreciated, Rob, what you were talking about with the spirituality. I just know that we got to call a thing, man. There are some people that need to get back to their faith, but there's some people that have been faithful. And this ain't the fault of our faith. This is a fault of evil, selfish people. You know what I mean? Because, it's been so much that we've faced as a people. And I don't think that it was a fault of our faith, but I do think it's important for us to find our faith, to find our grounding in a difficult time like this, so we can understand who we truly are. And what Kev said, we texted, he texted it to us, and that's why I wanted him to record that message, because it was such an awesome response to his text. And man, I was so encouraged by it, because not only did he talk about the fact that we often don't give ourselves credit for what we're doing, how far we've come, for the good things we do. All of us, we've known that we've just been on to the next instead of stopping to say, hey, man, we did a good job. And we're all accomplished in so many important and ways that should be celebrated, and we haven't taken the time to do that. I think that was important. But one of the other points that he made when he was talking about that really stood out to me was a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, not accepting that I'm just going to be this way all the time, that even Kev at his stage in life and how old he is, which, ain't none of us really like that. There ain't no big difference in our ages. We are all on the other side of it. But, still challenging himself, still growing, still learning, still wanting to do new things, man. And I think that's important, especially for, like, all of us are successful. We've done things. We've been there. We've done that. And I think it's important for us to continue to find new mountains to conquer, new skills to add to our repertoire to keep growing, because once you stop growing, you are on the path of dying sooner than later, and I think that was another point that he made in that what he shared with us that really, really resonated with me is that, we find ourselves in a time where there's going to be some opportunities for us to learn some new stuff, whether we want to or not. It's going to be some things we're going to have to do. And so we can shrink back from it, or we can embrace it. And I think definitely us four, we embrace the challenge of the founder of Black Men with Purpose podcast, stepping away from what he did, and we didn't shy away from the responsibility of stepping up and continuing to do this. I'm proud of us for that. I'm proud of us for staying dedicated. And so now that we talk about that, so many things that we can talk about, but some things that I was encouraged by looking at some of the acceptance speeches for the NAACP awards and thinking about, last week we talked about Black history heroes that have come and gone, that have passed on and things like that. But I'm excited about the current Black history heroes and the future Black history heroes that are coming up. I think about, Barack Obama as a hero, the first Black president of the United States of America. I think about Kamala Harris, the first Black and woman VP of the United States. I think about Simone Biles, one of the most historically celebrated Olympians of all times, just all of the people that are making Black history now. I think about us, making Black history, and changing the world. And so I think it would be a cool thing to make that pivot and talk about some current era Black history heroes as we close out this episode that's going to close out Black History Month. We're not closing out the episode. We still got some time, fellas. But I think that's a great thing. And you know what? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but man, I'm going to call out Dr. B to get us started with some current Black history heroes. And you can rock with whoever you want to, brother.
Oh, man, current Black history heroes. I mean, hey, take your pick. I mean, for me, I talked about this author. His name is George Harrison. We call him Professor George Harrison. When I met him when I call him my road to Damascus. I was at a job fair working for this company. I was working for this college, basically trying to recruit veterans to come this college wanted veterans to take advantage of their GI Bill and come. They wanted the veterans come spend money at their school. Long story short, I had just completed my bachelor's degree. I was like, I'm good. I don't need to go to school no more. I'm done. And he came over. He and I were the only two Black guys at the job fair. He came over and he's like, this is not the end of the road for you. I said, no, I'm good. He's this, you got more in store. There's more for you. He said, why don't you think about going to this school and coming to my school and getting your master's? I say, no, I'm good. I don't need to do that. And 3 weeks later, I got fired from that college. And I was like, and the reason I got fired is because I told them nobody was going to come to their school uptown in Northwest DC that nobody's going to leave when you got colleges that are coming to the base for military members. Anyway, so long story short, I called him up and say, hey, can I enroll in a master's program? Enrolled in a master's program. Anyway, I got to know him. And long story short, just as our friendship has grown over the years, I learned about how much he has gone through growing up in, small town in Virginia, and what he had to go through when he was coming up in the 40s and 50s, to persevere, to be an engineer, to be in the Air Force back in the 50s. It was a lot for a black man, and then to even make the rank of captain coming into the late 50s, it was a lot. It was a lot. So yeah, I mean, he's just the start of it. Man, when you look at other people, I know some people give my man LeBron some flack, but he's done things that we want to be able to do for our children. People talk about how Bronny is not qualified, and granted, but guess what? He's leveraged what he's done to get his son into position to be successful for the rest of his life. Even if he doesn't play in the NBA, guess what he end up doing? He could probably end up coaching somewhere. He made the path for his son to be better. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. So, I mean, that's just the start. I mean, we could go on and on, but, man, if you want to talk about religion, I talk about, Drew Shear, the presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ, how he's leveraged, he and his wife, they came into those positions in church, but they used what they had until they got to what I tell people, use what you got until better comes along. And so an excellent example, he's changing the culture even in the Church of God in Christ. One of the things he doing is like, look, we ain't got to stay in church all day. So, that's one thing. We grew up, if you went to church, you was in church all day on Sunday. And, even on Sundays, even before he became the presiding bishop, it was like, hey, there's a blueprint out there that you can be in church in 90 minutes and be effective. So, but that's just a few that I would say as trailblazers for the Black community, for myself. But I'll pass it on to Rod.
Thanks, brother. As you were talking about that, I think LeBron, it's a great point. I think, especially for the Black community, if you really go back and understand his story and the path that he took or had to take, I'm like, yeah, I applaud anyone, that's willing to leverage the work and commitment that they put in, the sacrifice that they had to make, and a lot of times even our own people, will look and say, well, if you're a billionaire, you didn't have it hard, without really understanding what it took for them to. They did things that most of us are just not willing to do. So, and so with that, I just wanted to give flowers to Tyler Perry. I think that, especially after watching NAACP awards, and just recognizing that, a lot of people said no to him. A lot of people wanted to change, his vision, for the type of content he wanted to create and the stories that he wanted to tell. And, I just applaud him with saying, well, you know what? Oh, Hollywood, y'all don't have any space for me? Okay, I'll go create my own. Goes to one of the recognized meccas for our culture down in Atlanta and creates his own. You don't hear a whole, I don't think, and I'm not on social media like that, but you don't hear a whole lot from him. But to listen to the people whose lives that he's impacted speaks volumes. It's like, bro, when you doing what you believe in, what you're committed to, what you value, you don't have to talk up for yourself. People are willing to say, "Hey, thank you." I know when Kerry Washington was giving her speech, you know, she thought she had forgot to mention his name and came back out and was like, "Oh, I need to thank Tyler Perry." And they're like, "No, you did. You did." She's like, "Oh, you know," but she wanted to make sure that she paid reverence to the fact that he had created that movie idea and to tell that story of how that group of Black women impacted service to this nation and making sure, you know, that war fighters receive their mail. And we think about something as simple as that. But, you know, unless you've been forward deployed, you don't necessarily always recognize the importance of hearing from your loved ones and being able to respond to them that, you know, I'm okay. I love you. You know, yeah, it might be tough, but just, you know, being able to communicate with those who you love is a big deal. And just to see the commitment of those young women, you know, to come up with ideas on how to do it better and more efficiently. You know, when even leaders within the military thought it was a lost cause. Come on, man, somebody talk about it, you know. So those types of stories being told, you know, in an environment where, you know, history that included us, uh, you know, wants to be pushed to the back shadows like it never existed. So seeing that and just recognizing, and it wasn't just her. A lot of Black actors and actresses. I think that the politically correct term is to call them all actors now. I don't know, but the men and women of color that have been impacted by the space that Tyler Perry has created and the opportunities that he's created, when quite honestly they just weren't getting them, you know. And I know the country is all up in arms about not needing DEI, and it's because I think they're looking at it, you know, through lenses for which it was not necessarily intended. It's nothing wrong with fairness and equity, especially as it relates to opportunity. You know, let everyone be judged on their own merit, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So, so yeah, I think that, you know, he's a huge one, and I applaud, you know, him for again the space he's been able to create. So, with that, you know, I'll turn it over to Brother Ray.
Appreciate you, bro. Well, you and Byron took two of the people that I had on my list. You both mentioned LeBron. You know, the impact that he's making in Akron with the I Promise School. You know, all the kids that go to his school and graduate get their college educations paid for. That is one hell of a thing to thank that man for. You know, I'm sure he's getting it from uh, the families that he is helping. You know, making sure that the parents have transportation, or even if it's just buying a bike for the kids to be able to get back and forth. You know, he deserves his flowers for that. Rod mentioned Tyler Perry. You know, the fact that, like you said, he didn't have his own studio. He didn't have his own space. So what did he do? He went and bought Fort McPherson, an army base that was named after a Confederate general. He went and bought the whole doggone thing, and there's 2 or 3 exits off the highway that says Tyler Perry Studios. And that's it, for him to go from where he started being homeless and not giving up on his dream, and to seeing that here it is, he's affecting people and telling the stories that we as people of color want to hear, that that the entire world needs to hear about. The fact that he is able to do that and not have to worry about somebody telling him no because he can finance it himself is just a beautiful thing, man. And I'm thankful for that. But the person that I'm going to talk about, I think that needs to have his flowers, is a guy that used to be a comedian. I think he still is a little bit. Byron Allen, because Byron Allen owns what is it? It used to be the Byron Allen Media Group. No, it is the Allen Media Group. It used to be Entertainment Studios, but he owns that. And this brother is a billionaire businessman, and he had been trying for years to buy NBC or some other major network, and has just not been able to do it as of yet. But even though he's heard the word no more times than I'm sure he cares to count, he's still out here making an impact and still out here pursuing his dream. And there's no doubt in my mind that he is going to eventually own one of these major networks, or own a major network, even if he has to create it himself. So that's who I would talk about, because I remember seeing him on the TV show Real People, and I'm like, oh, this dude is pretty funny. And then to find out that his business acumen is way up there, that is something for our folks to really strive to become. So the person I would talk about or would like to give flowers to would be Byron Allen. But again, definitely appreciative for you and Byron talking about LeBron James, Rod, and also Rod, you talking about Tyler Perry. So John, I'll throw it back to you, bro.
Man, y'all brothers is dope, man. Like, I second all of that. I was like, yo, man, we do need to give LeBron his flowers. And Tyler Perry, we don't appreciate. I'm glad you went deeper into the school and how large the studios are for Tyler Perry, because I just think a lot of times it's kind of like when you got a really good sports team and people just get sick of them winning. I think sometimes we just get tired because they just keep on winning, but I'm grateful that they keep on winning. At the time of our recording, this is the last episode of The Readout on MSNBC. So I want to give a shout out to Joanne Reed, who has been an advocate, truth teller, just an amazing, an amazing journalist, just amazing in so many ways, man. And, so this is going to be her last show tonight. And we're going to support her and follow her wherever she goes. I want to encourage y'all to, follow her. That's somebody that I really wanted to acknowledge. And then, kind of go grassroots. It's a group that I've been watching. I think a lot of people have fallen into the idea of calling them New Era Detroit, but they're actually out of Saginaw, Michigan. And it's a community group in the Michigan area, and they started with a desire to create a grassroots movement for their community and for members to be involved in like community revitalization projects and, to kind of support the community with resident involvement. What we see a lot on YouTube and on their public clips is you'll see them doing things like going to stand up. Like there was one instance where there was a tow truck driver that would park in a parking lot and sneak up on people 5 minutes after they parked and tow their cars, and, obviously they ain't been there long enough to get towed, but he was doing that. And they heard about it, man, and they just went and confronted the dude. And, they said, hey, we're going to have somebody on guard day in, day out till you leave this place because you're taking advantage of people in a, economically challenged area, and they having to pay all these fees, and you taking advantage, and we're not going to stand up for that. So they had a real Black Panther feel to them, but upon doing more research, it's not. They go to city council meetings. They challenge, the people there in government. Man, they challenge all of these things. But the important part is that they want to create economic stimulus in their neighborhoods. You know, they want to bring anchor projects to the communities. They support sports leagues to make sure that children have things to do, sustainable housing, grocery stores, medical clinics, and other consumer services. And one of the things that they talked about that really was inspiring to me is they said that, you know, we believe by enhancing a community's ability to become a competitive place for people to live, to work, and to play, it'll become sustainable and it will attract desirable development opportunities for housing and commerce. And it'll overcome the existing barriers rooted in lack of economic opportunity and will promote positive change and foster community resilience and population growth. So, man, I got to shout out New Era. Again, sometimes we call them New Era Detroit, but they're actually based out of Saginaw. There are some chapters all through Michigan, but that is a conversation that we've had so many times. It's just being active in the community and making the changes that you can. You know, like, we can't change the world. You know, we're not to a point yet where we can open up a studio like Tyler Perry, but we can remember that Tyler Perry started doing little plays in churches and then was able to move to community centers and then to little, you know, theaters in small cities and doing what we like to call the Chitlin circuit. And that he didn't just become Tyler Perry off of a couple of movies, but he put in the work. You know, we can talk about LeBron James, and yes, he's physically gifted, but how many physically gifted basketball players have we seen that have stayed with it? He's in his 22nd year and still dropping 30 and 40 points. And not only that, but more importantly, the things that he's done for the community. Like, I can't talk enough about that school, about how he was able to make a way for his son to be, man, he looking like he might be able to stick around until his other son make it to the NBA the way he playing right now. You know? So like you can't say enough about that. You can't say enough about you know, the gentleman that Byron was talking about, because we've had many conversations about that, how, you know, to get to those ranks later in life, it just goes back to what we were talking about, never giving up. And I'm proud of the resiliency of us that is in us to go out and be great, even in a society that is constantly, when you look at the media and when you look at everything about us, is constantly saying that we don't, you know, they get rid of General Brown and they get rid of, you know, all this, that, and the other because they want to send this message that they're inferior. But I saw Cat Williams had an interesting comment. He was talking about it. He was like, you know, we've been taken away from our heritage, and a lot of times we don't remember who we are. He said, but they know. That's why they go through all of that. That's why, you know, they want to subvert history and not tell the stories, because they know who we are. And their fear is that we're going to realize who we are. And you see that in the elements that we've talked about tonight, is that these are people that see who we are. So, man, I say it all the time, but look, if I died and they said you could come back, would you want to be black? I'd be like, I want to be twice as black, man, because, you know, I love being black. I love us. I love the ingenuity and the spirit of us. You know, we got some work to do. When we've talked about it many a time, but man, like on a night tonight where we can celebrate who we are and the things that we accomplish in spite of what comes against us, man. I'm proud of us. What y'all think, brothers?
Amen to that, bro.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Absolutely. I think once we get on the, when we actually understand who we have and who we are and what the significance it is that we pay it forward. I think about how I had two sisters, not biological sisters, but I got a friend of mine. She and I got our doctorates in the same year. Now, while she was going to school, her mother became ill and she was still trying to go to school. Long story short, her mother passed away like 3 months before she graduated. So when she was ready to graduate, she wasn't going to go to her graduation because it was like during COVID and it was limited who she can bring. So she wasn't going to go. So the day before her graduation, two of her girlfriends just called, hey, just checking on you. You know, they know her mother just passed. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm doing good. You know, I'm just sitting here. You know, my graduation's tomorrow. And they was like, are you going, right? She's like, no, I'm not going to go. They said, oh, no, Heifer. After all these parties we couldn't go to because you was going to school, the two of them went to her house, picked her up, took her shopping to get a new outfit, drove her to Delaware for her graduation, even though they could not go in. They was like, no, you doing this for us. You're doing it for the community. So, and she said, I'm so grateful that they did that for me. Was they took her and did everything. And it was a small thing, but the fact of the matter is they was paying it forward. It was like, hey, we know you was in a spot, you was in a place, but guess what? So guess what she did? When I got ready to graduate, I just told her mine was in Florida. She said, when you get your ticket, let me know I'm going too. I was like, yeah, no, Kayla's going. We good. She said, nope, I'm going. And so she showed up in Florida for my graduation. And so it's just like, and when I find out, when we find out who we are and the power that we have in being connected to one another, dude, we're not going to be stoppable. And like you said, that's why they want to divide us and make us feel like we're not adequate. The things that, or the places where we've gone or where we can go, we're not qualified to be there, or we definitely qualified to be there. But that's why you want to make us feel like we're not adequate. But no, man, once we get on the same page and once we understand the power that we have and just supporting each other, you ain't got to buy nobody, just show up. You know, man, that part right there, just show up for somebody. So that's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to place a higher value on it for sure. You know, and I mean, I don't want to get into the entire list, but you know, something that I came across recently was a Jewish gentleman who spoke about kind of the 10 things that that community has been taught as almost sacrosanct to develop themselves, their community, their children. And you know, I think people have tried to turn it into some type of nefarious anti-Semitic thing, but if you ever get a chance to look through that list, it lets you know that along the line, just as we've had in our own community, people have had visions for what it would take for us to be successful in this capitalistic society that we were born into. A lot of us now, our ancestors were forced to come here and build it, you know, and contribute to it being built. But it's a blueprint, you know, and I think, you know, collectively, we as a people who know better should certainly do better, but also should contribute to the positive nature of helping to provide a blueprint for those that are coming after us. Say, you know, I don't know if y'all follow him, but there's a gentleman that started the Black Business School, Dr. Boyce Watkins. Ray, you would love him because I think he got his doctorate from Ohio State, so he's a through and through Buckeye. But when he talks about his vision for teaching financial literacy to our community in particular, of course, anyone can follow him and can learn from what he teaches, but it's just all about empowering people to understand their value and especially what their economic value is, you know, to this society that we live in, you know, and unless, you know, we're moving, you know, capitalism is probably going to be around. So how do you survive and thrive in it? You know, by making sure that you make the necessary, because a lot of times it requires sacrifice. quite honestly. Make the necessary sacrifices to ensure that generations coming behind you have opportunities that maybe you didn't have. Okay? God had a different path for you. So don't look at it as, well, no one gave me a hand up, so everybody else gonna have to get it out the mud too. As opposed to, you know what? Hey, young man, young woman, you really need to understand the rule of 72, the power of compound interest, the time effect on investing. I mean, a lot of very simple lessons that, guess what? They're not being taught anywhere, and so, and we already know. So as you get older, you recognize that money and wealth is not about buying a bunch of stuff. No, it gives you freedom to do more good for other people. Ultimately, it does. It allows you to get involved in causes because you don't have to be chasing a dollar at a job, and you can contribute your time, which is the most valuable resource you'll ever have, or your knowledge and education and experience and wisdom that you've gained. So I think when we, shift our mindset, and earlier you mentioned a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And one of the things that I've learned is that while I've always worked and tried to sacrifice so I would be good in retirement, as I get closer to it, I recognize that I don't know that I want to retire. I'm always going to be doing something, right? So retirement and what it means to me today is not the same as what it meant when I started sacrificing and saving for it, So I'm always going to work, always try to keep the mind sharp. And you all know, as you laugh, I'm not a technology person, even though I work in IT every day, which is hilarious, right? But just recognize that you have to constantly be looking at ways of improving your skills. Before it was, this internet thing, now it's progressed all the way to, hey, you have to learn how to get along with AI because it's here, and before they get into quantum computing, figure this out, so you can constantly be progressing and finding ways to utilize technology to assist in all the good that you want to do. So with that, I will pass it on.
Wow, what a way to close out the show. Everybody, we at the top of the hour. But man, the OG, Brother Rod, close us out the right way. We got to keep growing. We got to keep moving. We got to keep evolving. And I agree with you so much on that. My thoughts of retirement was something way different when I was younger, but now I realize I'm a person of purpose and I'll always be working on something. And so, man, truer words, it just all hit home. Everything you all said just hit home, man. We are Black history now and we're creating Black history. And I did kind of just want to really go back to one of the points that you made, Brother Rod, when you talked about our faith, man. When we think about ourselves as a people, when we connected with each other in accordance with our faith, that's when major movements came into existence and we did major things. And so it's going to take our faith, it's going to take our growth, it's going to take our confidence in each other, our love for each other. It's going to take us dealing with the foolishness. But you know what? Man, we are Black History 365, Black history in the making, and I'm proud. One of the things that we talked about is during these times, fellowship. And y'all three brothers, man, being able to come on here and fellowship with y'all. And I want to apologize to everybody that's listening because there's some fellowship that we do after we cut the camera off that y'all can't be a part of. But it's a good time, y'all.
Before, during, and after.
Yeah, man. But before we close out, I want to leave us with a quote. And it says, if we accept and acquiesce in the face of discrimination, we accept the responsibility ourselves and allow those responsible to salve their conscience by believing that they have our acceptance and our concurrence. We should, therefore, protest openly everything that smacks of discrimination or black slander. And that was from Mary McLeod Bethune. So with that, we out.